There was a number of things that had me thinking toward like values and karate, and like the belt test was part of it because part of the belt test is reciting the 6 words. I haven't been with Hub City long enough to know the traditions there really, and I'm not familiar with the those words. Could you repeat those or tell us?
Yeah, yeah, I hear them a lot. Courage, confidence, control, discipline, dedication, determination. So those are probably out of order, but that's the way that Jack and Lily go over them. So
So okay, so you hear them a lot.
I hear them a lot. That and the six keys of honor. I hear those multiple times a day, every day.
Okay, keys of on.
Yeah.
So what are the 6 words are called what?
Those are the black belt words, I think.
The
The six
black
black
belt
belt
words.
words. Yep. It's
And
I think, now I'm not 100% sure, this is just me inferring, but I believe that that's the words that you focus on that build the character of the ideal black belt. Because you want to have courage to stand up and be brave and take on the challenges, control, because you have to control your body and understand, like, there's a time to listen, a time to learn, a time to put things into action. Consistency. That was one. I think I did not say that earlier. So it's control, courage, consistency. Obviously, consistency being putting in the work all the time.
you said you said
Discipline.
you said confidence instead of
Yeah.
consistency.
Yeah. My bad. I got a different school's word in there.
Oh, okay.
But
So this is different values for different schools, maybe.
yeah, from what I understand.
Okay.
But yeah, I know at Hub City it's the control, courage, consistency, discipline, dedication, determination, and that is the order there.
Dedication,
um,
determination. There was
and
another
discipline.
and discipline. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. With Jack and Lily's class, they're in the 2 to 5 year old class, 2 to 6 year old class. Um, One of the examples that Brackett uses is when the kids start getting a little, excited and things like that. He'll, sit down and he'll put his hand on his lips and he'll be like, "Control my body," and they'll be like, "Control my body." And it's like you got to control your body because, we're learning and we're learning new moves and things like that, and we have to control ourselves so we have an opportunity to learn. And then he'll play off of that with discipline and mention that, like, I'm looking to see if you're disciplined doing what you're supposed to do without me having to tell you, hey, control your body. Let's watch our teammates learn their stuff and things like that. So that's been I've noticed a big improvement with Jack and Lily's behaviors at home a lot of times because Lily Lily struggles with big feelings. She's a little younger than Jack, and she goes from 0 to 100 pretty quick. Um, and the other night, so we have a rule with her. If she starts having big feelings because she gets very elevated very fast, and then she doesn't express them the best, she just explodes them out. So we look for the signs that she's getting elevated and having her feelings, and we try to bring attention to that and help find out what do we need to do
And
to let this feeling exist.
and for our audience who might not be aware, these are your children.
Yes, my children. My son Jack, who's 5, he'll be 6 next week, so I'm hesitant to call him 5 anymore. And Lily, who just turned 4 this past September. Um, so uh, Lily, she goes 0 to 100. It's great because they're their own individual people, and the things that they're similar on, they are very similar. But the things that they are different on, they are night and day different. And Jack is one of the sweetest kids as far as he's very in tune to the feelings of the people around him and things like that. And Lily, a lot of it is probably her age, but she tends to be a lot more like her centered. Like what's happening to her is what's happening to the world around her. Um, But the other night I was super, super, super proud of her. We have a rule whenever she has the big feelings and things like that, if she needs to step away and go to her room or away from everybody and just have a moment by herself to kind of calm down, express herself, and see what's going on, we let her do that. And then the only rule is, we want to talk about it. What do you think caused you to walk off? Is it something we did? Is it something you saw? Just trying to understand better. And the other night at dinner, Jack and I were talking about something, and she tried to interrupt, but didn't really know what we were talking about. And then I I don't know if she took something Jack said the wrong way, or if it was just like the straw on the camel's back that day. Um, but she obviously got upset, and she started to yell. She made the face, and then instead of yelling or anything, she just stopped and she stood up. She walked out of the kitchen towards the living room to go upstairs to her room. And I heard her go in there and I heard her stop. I didn't hear her go up the steps. And it was probably 30 seconds to a minute later. She come back and she sat down and went right back to eating dinner. And then, we didn't acknowledge it. We didn't say anything. Um, and then I was talking to Jack again, and then she said something. And I just looked at her and I said, "Give me 1 second. Let me finish this. And then we'll talk about whatever it was she was bringing up." And she just, that was it. She went off. She was like, and she, got up and stomped and stormed off. And at that point, I waited because I was like, I don't know. Like, is this the point where I step in and say something? Do I let her have a chance? And I decided at that point, like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go talk to her, because she stormed off the way she did after she did so good the first time. Just try to bring attention to it. And she just, like, stopped and turned around before I could get up and came over to me, and she started fussing and she was upset and she was like, "Daddy, I tried really hard and I had big feelings and I walked away, but I didn't even go to my room, and I come back and 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 it's just ah." And I said, "Okay, I get that. That's rough. That's a big thing." I said, "But you realized that you were getting big feelings and you walked away, and you did that yourself. Like, we didn't remind you, we didn't tell you. Like, you recognized it yourself, and that's a big deal. Like, you did that all on your own." And she was like, "Yeah, but then I come back and I still got mad." And I said, "That's okay too. That's okay too." I said, "You can come back if you realize you're getting mad, and maybe you needed more time. Maybe you didn't, What is it that was making you upset?" And that's when we really kind of start getting to, what's causing me to feel this way, because we're really big about our feelings and trying to understand them. And I've noticed that it's a lot easier to do that since they've started doing karate, where, you know, they do an activity, they get a little antsy and things like that. And then Brackett will come in and say, "All right, well, hold on. Let's control our body for a second. Let's hold on, pause, time out. Okay, let's try this. And so I think that, like, that's been really helpful for them as far as, like, being able to have that understanding of, like, sometimes things can pause you for a second, and that's okay, because it's helped her not just build, 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 build. She kind of, like, realizes that something's happening. So that was pretty cool to see a good, like, impact of the kids and things like that.
I know when I was in karate, we had some sort of creed we said at the beginning of class, and I don't remember the specifics, but the I always felt the value was, it was winning. It was
Yeah.
that's what it was, and it was doing extreme things in pursuit of that. And there's like, I remember one year, Marty was like, I forget if it was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, but he was like, "Well, we could work out, but it'd just be the four of us." So that shows you where the line was drawn. And this was,
Right.
I guess he was probably already in his mid to late 30s. It's not like he was, the hungry 20-year-old, and still, that's where the line was drawn.
Yeah, that's man, that line is such a malleable point on the day at my age now.
Yeah, we
I,
right, and you're
oh,
like not quite even in that. You're right at that range, and that's like it
yeah,
was, and that's why 4 years ago when I came back to karate, that's why I came back there because that was the value, and that was it took something in me, pulled it out a little more so. That's how I always frame it. It's like it wasn't transformational for me, but it's just like I kind of valued that already, and then this was that taken to the extreme. And I value hard work in the pursuit of something. A lot of people value hard work, period, and I don't. I think these, people will say, well, to get welfare, people should have to dig ditches and fill them in. And people have different values, and I don't value that. I think life's hard enough without making up work.
yeah, I would agree with that. I
Yeah.
got confused or fell off or started, I was a coach for a long time, and my value as me was I was a coach, and that mattered to me, and I made a difference and saw a difference in people, and um, took care of my mom and my family and stuff like that. And I did all these things. And in the end, at that point, COVID had happened, the karate school had closed, my mom had passed, and I just found myself, I was a father. I had two beautiful little kids. Jack was like 2, and Lily was, not 1 yet. She was just a couple months. And I just, I had this moment where it's like I didn't get any validation ever from anything.
That's a,
Not Yeah, not like what I was used to, like I mean I had a support system, like Katie was always very supportive and things like that. Josh always supportive. Um Sometimes to a fault I feel like, but he there was something I did or said, and Katie just casually made the remark of like, you need to get your validation from you. And it just kind of like struck me because it wasn't related to what I was saying or asking or anything like that. But it was obviously something that she felt at the time. And then I, it's so silly. I had this moment standing in my kitchen, and I was looking in the fridge to pick something to fix for lunch. And I was looking at everything, and I started to fix, it was a little hot pocket. And I opened up the freezer, got the hot pocket, and I looked at it. And I just, for some reason that day, I decided, no, I don't want this hot pocket. I don't even like this kind of hot pocket. I don't know why I'm even trying to eat this hot pocket. And then I, faced the hardest question I'd ever faced at that point. I said, well, then what do I actually want to eat? Because if I don't want to eat this, what do you want? And I literally stood there just looking at the fridge for about 5 minutes, looking at everything and being like, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to eat. I don't know. And I was like, that's a problem. That's something that needs to be fixed. Like, I'm an adult. I'm in charge of kids. I'm a husband at this point. Like, I need to know what I like. And so I just started there. And, I literally, every meal that I would eat, I would be like, okay, do I like this? Do I like this? Do I like this? No, I don't really like that. So then I just wouldn't eat the things I didn't like. And then I would eat the things that I did like. And eventually I started with chores around the house. Like, the dishes need to be done. Let me go ahead and do those. I'm free right now. I can do that. And then I got real honest with myself about a lot of things, which is very, very hard to do. Like the shape I was in, the things that I was doing, and being like,
so
is the things that I'm,
so
go ahead.
honesty, just key wording here.
Yeah.
Another value word. In my mind, when I started thinking about this episode, I'm like, values. Yeah, there's 5 or 10 things, and I realized in googling that there's a lot of things that people have put value on. It's not
Hmm.
like this really short list. Um, but
Beauty's in the
honesty,
eye of the beholder.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
So,
I was Aspie, very sort of spectrumy growing up, and I was like the most honest kid you've ever seen, like pathologically honest. I mean, a lot of theories on how our brains developed. It's like they have something to do with social competition. It might be one of the reasons we have big brains. And
uh,
I was just like all the truth all the time, 100%, which is I mean, it still feels like a good goal. That's how we would like to live in a
right.
society, so we don't have that overhead. But you have to be able to recognize that that's you're not always in a position where the other people are going to do that. So you have to at least understand, on some level, you have to understand other people are going to lie, maybe to themselves first, but and I didn't. So I guess it was both a value of mine.
Lily's my honest child. She will accidentally be a savage in a minute.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So there's one time where you could just be a little less honest. um.
um,
Mhm.
yeah, but
So when I was thinking about this episode, I did Google some karate values. I looked up. Let me bring it up, and the 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 number of different values people expressed as part of their webpage, it surprised me. The first, let's see, first four schools I came across, I found honor, respect, tradition, and altruism for the first school, integrity, discipline, focus, and perseverance, discipline, respect, honesty, loyalty, courage, dedication, kindness, and responsibility, and respect, self confidence, goal setting, patience, and self discipline.
okay.
So, but the one word that came through the most often was respect, and respect deserved a little attention, I guess,
Yeah,
on its own, regardless of what either of us might. It's not.
I'm a firm believer in the value of respect. I'm not a firm believer in the value of blind respect. I think that would be, and that's something that's kind of recently come as I've gotten older. Um, and, there's been a lot of talk between me and Katie about the kids as far as like, yeah, I've kind of alluded to this in the previous episodes. Like, there's a lot of benefits from karate and stuff like that that I've noticed, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that I wish I would have done differently. Um, as far as you had mentioned the pursuit and what that leads you to, the pursuit of competition and things like that. And you know, I I was told, I was very well aware that I wasn't doing things the correct way, and I just didn't care. I wanted the result. I didn't care how I got it. So
What do you mean by that? The correct way?
like it. So in pushing myself to get better, and like instead of, now we've learned a lot of society as far as like working out, training. We understand our body and things like that. I didn't really have access to the knowledge that I have now, and I did not have people in my life that had the same desire. It was a lot of the stuff that drills and things like that I did at a younger age. There's a lot of people that did similar drills that are having a lot of like surgeries now. They
Mm.
either did the thing incorrectly or, you know, back in the day, it seemed like some of my coaches were trying to build toughness and heart, and you can't really. That comes from a desire to achieve a certain goal. It doesn't come from somebody saying, no, you got to dig down, you got to find it in yourself. And that's true, but you have to have a purpose that drives that, not somebody telling you that you need to figure out how to do that, in my opinion. So, I wish, like, because of that, I have a lot of trouble with my knee. My back gets my back will just go out sometimes, and I can't walk for a week. It's a very
Oh wow.
like rough thing that just kind of happens sometimes. And I think that they're correlated to not really understanding the drills that I was trying to do, and just thinking to my, you tell a kid like, oh, well, you just do push-ups, so you do an astronomical amount of push-ups, right? And then you're like, well, I'm tough. I did push-ups and stuff. And then 20 years later, you read this thing that says, well, if your arms are like this and you're doing push-ups, you're activating your triceps. And, if they're at the 45, you're doing your triceps and your chest. And if you're, straight up like this, you're hurting your shoulders and stuff. And, as a kid, you don't think about that.
Right.
So younger me would push myself to the breaking point and then lie to myself and say, this is where you get better. And instead of like having a cerebral thought process of studying technique and, you know, trying to learn and better the timing, it was more of
Mm,
quantity over quality regardless.
right.
And that I feel like that was a very big detriment. So Katie and I talked a lot about the kids going into karate because of that. For one, it was my whole life. And there's a lot of people that they grew up doing karate, their kids are going to do karate. And I wanted the kids to do karate if they wanted to do karate. To me, it's a very personal journey and things like that. Yeah, that it really started. Jack and I stopped by Brackets one night, and you know, we went in there and we had just left a parent teacher conference from his first report card, and these kids come running up to him and they touched his glove, and Brackett was like, I heard you got to go talk to the teacher today. And Jack was like, yeah.
I
And so
yeah.
yeah, it was cool. Like he had his own like person.
Yeah, Brackett is so good at getting his people to be inviting. It is
Yeah.
amazing at that, really. Um, so I had things I wanted to say. What was I going to say? Um, it's a great conversation. What I so respect. So what like I haven't thought a lot about respect in my life. It's not been like a top line value for me. Um, the values I grew up with were and failures are on my own here, and I'm sure I carry some guilt for failures here. But it was make money and be smart. And on the smart side, it's like, well, like you can't learn to be smart, so don't worry about that so much. But you are, so you're good. And then beyond that, other things fall out, and it's like, well, you probably have to work hard. If you don't, that's fine, but you probably will. So you should work hard. And it's not bounded work. It's not like work hard within the context of a balanced life. It's like there's a bottom line, and you have to find your way there. And there's you either do or you don't.
Right.
So
I
yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
respect for me growing up, it was different. Dad was a Marine, and
Okay.
then I was a young age went into karate, and it was very structured at the
So what
time.
was he enlisted or officer?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, so he was just enlisted. He wasn't like an
Okay.
officer or anything like that. He did his stint. He got out. Didn't re-up or nothing like that. But it changed him in a lot of ways. We didn't really understand that fully for a long time, and it was an adjustment once we kind of realized that he was different because of the his job in there was a different type of job that it was a little much for him to kind of at a young age adjust to what he was doing and things like that. Um, so I didn't know this until later, but his father was a career military man that did 10 years in the Marines, 10 years in the Air Force, was an officer and all this other stuff.
Oh wow.
So it was like a military family upbringing, and then I came along. And I was like, I'll just do karate instead. That's, yeah, it's close-ish.
That's
Um,
interesting. So did that influence your choice to do and or continue karate?
no, absolutely not. I wanted to be
Okay.
a Power Ranger. I wanted to be a Power Ranger more than anything else.
Okay. Okay.
I even
Mm,
said that in my second most recent job interview. They asked me what motivates me. I said I want to be a Power Ranger when I grow up.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. That I had to re-interview. I got the job the next time, and I didn't mention it, but I did a callback to it in reference that I had said that, and they said, "Well, that was fine." I was like, "Well," they said my answers were more thought out the second time because I left that out, so that's fine.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it to me it was I want to be a Power Ranger. I wanted to be a teenager with attitude, and I wanted to follow Zordon's rules because if I had a tube with a talking head in it, I would listen to that for sure. Um, but in growing up, respect for me was you give respect. You give respect, and eventually you get respect in return. But first you give it,
Mm.
and then there was this like shift in people that said, well, you earn respect by giving respect and this and that. And here's my thing. At this point in my life, I respect absolutely everybody on the planet, myself included. And if your your views are your views, you have them all you want to. My views are my views. The one thing that I tell my kids is there's three things you can never ever tell anybody. You never get to tell people what they like. You never get to tell people what they don't like, and you never get to tell people what they believe in. Now, you can disagree with certain things and you can talk with them about it, but you don't get to tell them that they're wrong because they like something. You don't get to tell them they're wrong because they don't like something, and you don't get to tell them they're wrong because they believe in something, because that's all your choice. Whether, we want to admit that or not as a society, that's the secret. It's all your choice at the end of the day. Whatever you choose, that's yours.
Do that. I thought that I knew a lot about how other people would thought and believed until very recently, and I found out that I just don't. People carry a lot of things with them that you don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not naive enough to think that you can just wear your heart on your sleeve and be open and expect everybody to respect you the way you respect them. But at the same time, I'm pretty firm in my beliefs, and like because at the end of the day, I'm happy with who I am. Like I feel like I'm a good person. I know that I mess up and make mistakes, but I try to learn from them. So as long as I'm like, there's a Japanese philosophy of kaizen, which is
Right.
little improvements every day, and I I feel better about myself because I try to learn something every day or do one thing better. And like when I have days that are just horrible and atrocious, and if I was Alexander, I'd write a children's book about it. On those days before I go to bed, I make a point to be like, all right, well, what's one good thing that happened today? There's no day that nothing good ever happened. What is that? Even if that good thing is today is over and I can go to sleep now. I find one thing and I think about that. Um, or at least try to.
Um, so I can't recall ever hearing. I don't know if my dad ever said the word respect or not. It just wasn't like, it was like I had silent generation parents that grew up poor in the South, and so again that influenced the, money is a central value,
Mm,
and my dad was also probably a little bit on the spectrum himself, and he wasn't the most social. He could strike up a conversation to an end when he needed to, but I feel like a lot of these like social values probably really came into the forefront with the boomer generation to a greater extent than with my parents' generation. So, and I'm a Gen Xer, definitely somewhere in between. Sort of, self-identifying Gen Xer. Like I value that. We're overlooked and forgotten, and that might be for the best, but that's well, you can fly under the radar, right? When people don't notice you, it's like we're small, so we don't have as much political power, which is unfortunate in some ways. The boomers have been on the world stage for a very long time, good and bad. It may be one of those you'll miss us when we're gone situations. On the other hand, it's been a long time. um, but yeah, the I don't know that I respect was not emphasized, and there are definitely some it's started to sort of sink in that living most of my life as yeah, I don't know. I mean, I probably got more respect than I realized for a long time. Um, I respect competence. Um, I think everyone deserves a certain baseline of respect as a person, and I think it's reasonable to respect competence. A lot of people will use respect to mean fear, and respect for social status, in particular respect for dominance hierarchies. Um,
I probably got a lot more benefit from listening and reading from Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL. Are you a former Navy SEAL ever, or are you just a Navy SEAL? Um, but he's Navy SEAL, retired. Um, and his first book was Discipline Equals Freedom. And the idea being is if you are disciplined in your daily activities and the things that are good, then you'll have the ability to have more freedom to do the things you want to do. Um, like if you're always on top of taking the trash out, doing the dishes and thing like that, then you have the freedom to always have clean dishes whenever you're trying to cook and everything's already ready and stuff when you need it. If you have the discipline to go and work out consistently, for a couple of weeks at a time, build a routine, then you have the freedom to go and enjoy your workouts because now you're in better shape and you can up the intensity or maintain what you've got. And that really helped me. It's very rugged. Rugged would be a great way to
right? You
determine.
don't you don't strike me as the
Yeah,
rugged type.
yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, it's very like rugged and just gritty, and that's cool. Like I can be gritty if I need to, but just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right. Yeah, it's like I'm trying to think if there was what are all the things that I wanted to say but didn't that I missed. Your dad was a Marine, and that made me think of NCIS. I watched probably too much TV, but Gibbs has this thing, and he says, "Don't serve me. I work for a living."
Okay.
And that's always stuck for me because it feels like I hear "sir" more now than I did 10, 20 years ago. I feel like there's a lot of gender terminology, and I don't know if that's just because I've become more aware of it, or if it's because it's actually happened. But like, I personally, obviously, don't need to be sirred. I kind of aggressively don't need to be brothered, and I haven't told people this, but don't brother me. On balance, if you're thinking about it, I don't need to be sirred or ma'amed or anything. Just don't. And and there's the gendered element, but there's also the element that of saying, well, it's about what I can do, not about some sort of social status in that sense.
As far as like the SIRS and stuff, I feel like it's mostly just the like the world you're involved in at the time you're involved in them. For me, it was yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, all the time. And I was saying yes ma'am, no ma'am to my infant daughter when she was born, just like I was yes sir, no sir to my infant son.
Right.
It was just like in the area I was in. And then I started this job. I can't say, the company that I work for or anything like that because they're very big on like you can't say their name in social media or of any kind or anything
Oh
like
wow.
that. Like,
Okay. Huh.
but the finance company that I work for,
Right.
servicing auto loans, um, as close as I can get, they explained, and the beautiful thing about this job is, and I we have customers all across the country. If you're in America, we can help you. If you're in Canada, we can help you. We can't help you, but our Canadian people can. But in training, one of the things that we were explained to was in different areas it's different. Like in the South, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am is a predominant thing. Whereas up north, that's reserved for the elder people in the community. So
Interesting.
if you yeah, if you sir or ma'am somebody up there that's like 20 or 30, they get upset, and they're
Right.
like,
Interesting.
you,
Huh.
so they're like, don't upset our customers. And for me, that was the biggest adjustment because I do it my whole life without thinking about it. So I've developed this, instead of saying like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I'll say, yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
because I have to have that little extra in there, or no, mm-mm. And so that's really helped me. But because of that, I'm not really around it very much. I can usually tell within a couple of seconds if what area somebody's from just in hearing their voice. Texas will slip up on you because the Texans sound like they're southern, like southeastern, but they're not. They're a completely different personality. They just sound the same.
Huh.
Um,
That's interesting.
yeah,
Especially one of our guests was from Texas.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's it, it, I don't know. Texas is they're a The Texans that I have interacted with have left a lasting impression that I will carry with me for a long time.
Huh.
That's the best way to put that.
Hmm.
There are some, exceptions like the Mike Westbrooks of the world, but
Wow. This is gonna be a real heavy lift on the edit.
yeah,
Values. We are like, um, what else? Playfulness. I think that that's probably a good value.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think,
for
it's
karate, like for
strange, but
karate.
yeah, I think playfulness is really good at lightheartedness, kind of like just being able to have fun with it. Whatever engages you and gets it, fun, but at the same time, there's also like a seriousness of it that, depending on, some of the things, the techniques that sparring's been around less than 100 years. They didn't believe that we could actually use our karate in a practicing way without, hurting each other.
Huh.
And then in the 40s, they were like, wait, I got a really cool idea. What if we just don't hit as hard as we can? And then
Huh.
everybody was like, oh, wow, we could do that. That's neat. Let's do that. um, so I think that, I think there's a playfulness and a seriousness that go hand in hand in values. And like, I would want to see those together almost.
I think you don't get. Yeah, absolutely. No, sure. Yes, and I think you don't get a Bailey Murphy without playfulness, though. Like those moves
Yeah.
didn't exist before, right? I think the best
Right.
fighter in the game now absolutely had to have played a lot to get to where he is. I suspect. You know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When he said this is a dash, I was like a fighting game? Like a video game? Like I'm a Street Fighter, like a dash? And I was like, that's so cool. Like that's so neat. I
Right.
felt like I wanted to go back and play like Mortal Kombat Street Fighter and figure like what else I can use. Like maybe like a half circle punch or something, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
I know that the Gracie family for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, they're notorious for saying, keep it playful. Just
Okay.
always keep it playful. Keep it playful, you know?
Huh.
I think that's really cool. That
Yeah.
really that helped me like kind of open up a lot and just kind of be like, no, like keep everything playful. Like it, the world's enough doom and gloom. I don't need to contribute to it myself.
Right.
Um, so I would give it that.